Welcome to the KBB Review podcast, and after a Christmas break that has somehow reached the end of February, we are back with a brand new season. Yes, it's season 14, and we'll be with you right up to the end of April, but for now, here's a little teaser of what's coming up.
We will always need bricks and mortar kitchen and bathroom showrooms.
Should displays be free or not? Where's the commitment from the retailer?
In principle, I think the suppliers should be providing the product free of charge.
I wouldn't say that we wouldn't open new retail studios, but if an opportunity arises, then we'll absolutely consider it.
We've been in business for 40 years. None of our customers have ever needed to call upon deposit protection. So why put an additional cost on the price of their kitchen for protection which I believe they don't need?
There's loads of businesses gone out of business last year, and some big businesses and some businesses have been going a long time, turning over, making lots of profit, and then all of a sudden, bang, a few months, bad months, and they're gone.
I don't think we make a reasonable margin, and even on those brands where we fully commit to them as we are required to under our selective distribution agreement terms, we still have to jump through so many hoops to get even close to a reasonable margin that makes us competitive that selling the product does become an anathema, a necessary evil.
I don't like things that go outside of the process because the knock-on consequence of the client going, oh sorry, my appliance hasn't arrived yet, can we put a fitting off for a week? The answer is no.
It's tough, it really is tough. The appliance boys and girls just aren't, they're not close enough to the independents. They really aren't.
Every design should be paid for. It's an awful lot of work going into it. And it's the same like going to an architect for, advice for plans, and it all costs. No one these days can do their work for free.
A lot of times, if clients can see it, they believe it, they want it, they'll buy it. Simple as that. If you can visualize something, people will imagine themselves using it, and that is the key to sales. And I think our industry has forgotten for many, many years that design isn't a means to an end. It is actually the spark that ignites the flame of sales.
So we need to find spaces that work for kids, parents, grandparents, all of us living together. Kitchens and bathrooms are the high-risk areas in every home, we all know that. So we need to get them right. And if you don't future-proof your home as a designer, if you don't future-proof your client's home, you're doing them a disservice really, because you need to add value and make those spaces usable and safe for years to come. So I think it's something that designers need to embrace.
Independent retailers to us are the backbone of this industry. You will not get a better service from any multiple or shed than you will get from an independent. They care about what they do. They are truly professional in what they do. Every service that you will get from them will be tailored to each individual client.
I think designers are going beyond just dropping products into the bathrooms, and it feels like the thinking around the designs is they're being more integrated into the homes as living spaces.
Every single one of them show one thing in common, that they really enjoy working with clients and have developed a high degree of trust with them. And the higher the degree of trust, usually the more confident and the more original their work is.
We're called independent retailers for a reason.
Yes, it's season 14 and we'll be with you right up to the end of April, but in this first episode we're taking a look at an issue thornier than a garden full of brambles, and that's paying for displays. So who do you think should foot the bill for the displays in your showroom? You the retailer or the supplier providing them? Why do some brands offer free displays and others not? What are the pros and cons for the retailer? And if they're paying, how much control should brands therefore have on what you display? And are suppliers fundamentally underestimating the value of showroom real estate? And for that matter, exactly how retailers use those displays to sell in the first place? We're talking it all through with Tina Riley from Modern Homes, Lisa Kyme from Ripples London, and Gary Nolan from marketing agency Pure Visibility. But first, normally in this slot, I would be telling you all about why you should book your tickets to the KBB Review Retail and Design Awards 2025 in the iconic Blackpool Tower Ballroom on April the 24th. However, I can't do that because it is completely sold out. Yes, the biggest social and networking event in the industry calendar is officially as big as it can possibly be. If you're not one of the lucky people already coming, then don't despair though, because we are running a waiting list for any cancellations that may happen between now and the event. So if you want to come, you need to email tracy@taylistmedia.com. That's Tracy with an E. And tell her exactly how many tickets you need. Don't worry, that email is in the episode description, and it's also at kbbreview.com/awards. It's running on a first come, first served basis. So if there are any cancellations, you want to make sure you're as near the top of Tracy's list as possible. See you in Blackpool. Here are our special guests. In no particular order, we have Tina Riley from Modern Homes. Hello, Tina.
Hello.
Hello to you. We have Lisa Kyme from Ripples London. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. And we have Gary Nolan from Pure Visibility. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Andy.
Hello to you. So, right, let's start with the traditional introductions. Tina, give us a 10-second pitch of Modern Homes.
Modern Homes, retail, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom showroom, established 1968 in Leamington Spa, still going strong, and I've been doing this for 48 years, which quite frankly is too long now.
That is too long, Tina. It's time to stop. Over to you, Lisa. Tell us about Ripples London.
Hi, I've been owner of Ripples London for the last 24 years and operating as a franchise within the larger Ripples group, and we currently have 21 showrooms in the group.
Brilliant. And Gary, what is Pure Visibility?
Essentially a digital marketing company focused on assisting primarily KBB retailers, anything marketing and advertising wise.
You're here today mainly because you used to be an ASM for several high-profile brands in this sector, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. So for the best part of the last 13 years, an ASM for, as you said, many suppliers and manufacturers into the UK market.
So fantastic. So that gives us a slightly different perspective here. So we are gathered here today to discuss what can be sometimes, I think, a bit of a thorny subject, and that's the arrangements between suppliers and retailers when it comes to displays, who should pay for displays, and in particular, why some suppliers might offer them for free. So let's see where we stand. Tina, let's start with you. In principle, do you think retailers should contribute to the cost of displays?
In essence, yes, albeit I do believe that we should also qualify for some sort of rebate based on sales going forward in the future. I don't think displays should be given out willy-nilly free of charge. And certainly as a retailer over the years, I've had other showrooms locally open that have taken advantage of that and then not necessarily stayed in business for very long. But where I've done it quite successfully is where I have paid a trade price, for want of a better word, but then that has been refunded on further discounts off my ongoing terms. So you've got a commitment from both sides effectively. So I've always felt that worked better for us as a showroom. I do think sometimes manufacturers forget how much more we have to pay on top of whatever. So if you take a kitchen or a bathroom layout, not only have we got to pay for those products, we've got to take the fitter off fitting jobs, so we're not making any money there. We've got to pay them. We've got to pay the decorator. We've got to pay the other bits and pieces that go on that display, appliances, whatever. We've got to dress it, which effectively more than doubles the price of that display in the first instance. So no, I still don't think they should be free, but I think there should be some sort of reciprocal arrangement.
Because even a free display carries a level of cost to it, as you described. What about you, Lisa? In the principle of it, in your head, who should pay for it?
Yeah, so in principle, I think the suppliers should be providing the product free of charge where they can. I accept that there are smaller suppliers or there might be bespoke items that we require that perhaps aren't in a box in a warehouse somewhere. But as Tina just said, there is an implicated cost to the showroom in getting the work done, which can sometimes also result in the showroom having to close for a period of time while that work is being carried out. If I had my display in my front window changed, we would have to close the showroom. So that obviously has an impact on our income as well.
Gary, let's switch to you, because from the supplier's perspective here, and you were the guy out on the road trying to get these displays into showrooms, what's the kind of train of thought that goes through the arrangement that you might have with those retailers in terms of cost? Because there is a level of cost to the supplier. So what's the train of thought? When you're sat there in a sales meeting and you're deciding what do we charge, what don't we charge, what's the process?
Well, there's sort of two perspectives there. The ASM has some level of control or authority as to what does or doesn't happen. But at the same time, he needs to fall within the T's and C's of his employer, the manufacturer or supplier itself. So As an ASM, I've never believed that display should be chargeable. Never. No matter who I've worked for, I've always believed that they should be not necessarily free, but the end goal to be that there is zero cost, and how you achieve that, there's different ways of going about it. The supplier will always want to recoup some value for the product that's being supplied. It doesn't matter how they look at it, there needs to be a recoup of value. But the options that you have, and everyone that I've worked for has always had a very flexible approach, which allows the ASM to have some level of control, but allows us to get displays into showrooms in a way that can be considered at zero cost eventually. So I think Tina mentioned, you have the options of certain types of rebates or increased discounts. And by having those in place, eventually the display becomes free of charge.
So this is really about motivation, isn't it? This is really about how do you get the retailer to commit to selling those products. And I suppose the argument against giving displays away for free is that they don't attach any level of value to it in terms of their day-to-day sales to their clients. So, from a supplier's perspective, how much are you looking at arranging a deal so that they are motivated to sell?
The thing is, we look at it, or the supplier would look at it, the ASM would look at it. There's different types of retailers. So you'd have a brand new customer that has never traded with you previously that is willing to take your product on board, versus an existing customer that already gives you a very high level of business and sales. So in the scenario that you've never dealt with that customer before, you need to weigh up, what is it going to return for us? Are they taking displays just to have something in situ, or are they genuinely looking to support you as a brand because you're supporting them? It's easier to identify with existing customers because you can see their level of commitment, you can see the level of sales, you can see how they promote your brand within the showroom. So it sort of dictates the decision a little bit. There's two different types of customers there to take into account.
Yeah, it's such an interesting and nuanced thing, isn't it? I think part of what makes this topic so interesting is that some suppliers have a kind of blanket approach and want every retailer to do the same thing and abide by the same rules. And some are much more flexible, as you outlined, on the ground with their ASMs. Lisa, do you think, you sort of touched on this earlier, that suppliers understand the value of the real estate of your showroom? In other words, you've got a certain amount of square footage and each square foot has to pay for itself in terms of displays. Do you think they really understand that well enough?
Certainly, with regard to Ripples London, yes, I think they do. I haven't been around quite as long as Tina, but in the time that I've been running my own showroom, I've built up a relationship with these suppliers. Ripples do not chop and change suppliers very often. And, we are loyal to those brands. So you've got to look at it from their point of view as well. They want consumers to be able to come in and view their products, which is, leading on to another subject, but why sometimes they want a bigger portion of your showroom than maybe you're prepared to give up. But no, I would say that our suppliers do understand what it costs to us to have them in our showroom.
Because there is a train of thought, Tina, and I've heard several retailers say this to me over the years, that effectively suppliers should pay you for the privilege of being in your showroom because the real estate is valuable.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I seem to be single-handedly taking down the KBB market at the moment on my own with displays, having had, obviously, my main kitchen supplier and all my showroom discontinued only a couple of years ago, having then changed again and decided not to put all my eggs in one basket. I would split suppliers, only to find that my latest reeded door display, which is a Vision in oak and duck egg blue from a certain door manufacturer, is now also not available. So I think you've got to also bear in mind that you can have an entire showroom and in a drop of a hat, every single product can be discontinued. I mean, if you've got enough sales now about you, you can still continue to trade. But I think it's more of an issue now than it's ever been before as to picking your supplier, having a relationship and hoping to God that they're not going to go bump on you in the next 12 months. So, yeah, having tried lots of different ways of doing it, I truthfully don't know what the answer is and how's the best way of doing it. But without the showrooms, and I don't care what anybody says about virtual reality, this, that, and everything else, we will always need bricks and mortar kitchen and bathroom showrooms. Customers have got to touchy-feely get in a shower enclosure, lie in a bath, open an oven door, see the quality of what you're selling. We're always going to need showroom.
Gary, that's where this sort of symbiotic relationship between retailers and suppliers always comes in, and it can be true partnerships, and I'm sure that you guys deal with suppliers that you've worked very closely with for years quite happily, but it can also be quite fractious as well, and particularly as Tina says there, when you kind of have display changes forced upon you rather than it's a choice that you've had to make. So what happens then in terms of cost, do you think, when a range changes or things are discontinued and people have to change displays? Where should the onus and responsibility lie there, do you think?
I know my opinion, and it should lie with the supplier and the manufacturer of the product. And speaking on behalf of the companies I have worked for, they have always taken responsibility themselves. And it might not be as straightforward as just saying, this is discontinued, we're going to give you a replacement for free. It then comes down to finding a flexible and agreeable deal that suits all parties. But I have found in my experience through the companies I've worked for that if you are forced into that change and it's not by personal choice, the manufacturers have been flexible to accommodate. I do believe that. Again, I can only draw on the experience that I've had, and that we know there's certain companies out there for sure that will dictate what you should have and will dictate how much of it you have to have in your showroom. We know there's people out there that are like that, but I think both Tina and Lisa said it. Once you find a supplier or a manufacturer, you build those relationships, you build those partnerships, and then it is about working together to find a satisfactory, solution for all.
If we go back to free displays for a minute, one of the reasons why some suppliers might offer free displays to people is if they're trying to establish themselves in the market, right? And therefore, it's much more appealing for you to sort of take a punt on something that you think is quite interesting if you haven't got to put some capital behind it. You must get reps calling in on you, Tina, with various contraptions and gadgets that they want you to have. So what would make you take a free display? Is it a gut feeling? Is it an instinct? What is it?
It'll be a gut feeling based on the actual product. And I certainly wouldn't take a punt on a major supplier of a large project, shall we say, like a new kitchen manufacturer or whatever. Yes, we've taken, and I think the joy of being an independent in that you can, I love the word, pivot quite quickly. If somebody comes in with an independent product tomorrow, we did one recently, which is a refillable dog water bowl that you actually plumb in. So the dog's always got clean, fresh water. Maybe is it a gimmick? Not. It's a talking point that I can discuss with my clients, whether they buy it or not. I would do an immediate gut reaction on that and take them or not take them. Would I, on a brand new product, on a brand new supplier, even if they were offering it me free of charge, too long in the tooth? I'd like it to have been on the market for some time first, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. To make sure that actually there's no bugs, there's no teething problems, any service things are sorted out. So they could offer to revamp my entire showroom and paint it gold, and I probably would say no, because I'm having enough problems dealing with established manufacturers going bump without taking on somebody brand new. I think it would just give me a headache.
But I suppose, whole new categories that have been invented, even in my time, let alone your time, someone had to have the first cooker tap, for example. Someone had to have the first borer extraction, or when these new technologies come along, someone has to take it on first. What about you, Lisa? Would you be suspicious of somebody coming in and offering you a free display of something that you thought was quite interesting?
Within Ripples, it is a little bit different, obviously, because of the number of showrooms that we have. We do have what we call an approved supplier list. So new suppliers are only appointed to that list if they have a product that is currently not available through any of our other channels. And unfortunately, I'm not at high enough pay grade to decide who those suppliers are. I don't think that anybody should be taking free product just for the sake of it if it's not a brand that they want to be aligned with. And are prepared to support and encourage their staff to sell. So I'm always wary of anybody, a bit like Tina, I'm always wary of somebody offering it for free without the backup.
Gary touched on it a little bit there, that there are some suppliers out there who are quite prescriptive about what they want you to do in the showroom with their products. And as you say, Tina, long in the tooth, you've done this a long time. How far do you go in terms of your own willingness to do what they want? Or do you just like, no, sod off, I'm going to do what I want?
Yeah, no, sod off, I'm going to do what I want. I mean, the issue that I've got, we are peculiar. I know that. We have a peculiar client base. I know for a fact when you look at the brands that we sell, we do not sell those suppliers' best-selling ranges. Never have done and never will do. We've got a peculiar clientele base, probably because we're peculiar. I don't know, whatever. So no, other than occasionally, if it's a case of somebody, there's a bathroom manufacturer recently has said that actually if we have one more display and we use their product and we've got a 25-year relationship with them, it increases my terms by an additional 5% on everything I purchase. Well, that's a no-brainer. I'm going to do that because it's a range I'm already working with and I'm already happy with. But I do know I don't necessarily sell their best-selling ranges. So if somebody said to me, you've got to put this on, I'd say, I don't think I've got to. No. We're called independent retailers for a reason.
Can I just say that sod off, I'll do what I want is going to be now the edited clip that I take from this podcast and use repeatedly over and over again. Lisa, what about you? How does it work with Ripples then? Because head office, for want of a better term, is doing the deals with suppliers. That's the nature of franchising. But what instructions do you receive, if any, about the proportion of space, how many displays you have to have for certain brands? Does that filter down to you?
So certainly for Ripples London, I've only got 6 displays. So I'm not going to be able to meet some of the requirements to have 3 settings or 25% of the showroom because it is just not possible. But again, because I've got that long-standing relationship, my suppliers are generally prepared to waive that condition on the basis that obviously we've got beautiful quality settings that showcase their products. And we haven't touched on it yet, but there should be targets set in place for displays with a level of sales with suppliers based on those displays so that they're getting the business from it, but we're not having to be dictated to as to how and what we display.
Okay, so Gary, your turn. Talk me through the logic of why some brands might do this, because I've never met a retailer yet who thinks it's a good idea. So why do some suppliers do it? What is the logic from their side?
I think it stems from, I think Tina mentioned something about, the bricks and mortar will always be needed because customers need to touch and feel and see the product. So it goes back to people buy what they see. It just is a fact, isn't it? People buy what they see. So what is being displayed in the showroom, if the showroom is set up correctly, will probably be the best-selling products that you have. So the furniture you have on display is probably your most sold kitchens. And if it's not, then you're probably not displaying the right product. Not to say it's detrimental to your sales, but that's generally how it works. People buy what they see. So from a supplier's point of view, the larger percentage of a showroom that they have, more of their product is being seen, the more likely they are to be the chosen product within the sale. It's generally that, the bigger share of the market they get. And on the flip side of that, the more of a showroom you have, the less your competitors have.
Is part of it about retailers who might collect the brands, collect the labels? You could just have 100 million labels on your front door saying you sell everybody. Is it about kind of narrowing down choice in that sense?
Yeah, look, I've worked for certain companies and I have previously set up display deals, soulless showrooms with clients on the basis that they're going to sell the product. And then you look at it, you review it however many months down the line, whenever it is, and they're not selling. And when you have the conversation that, they're selling out of, from a different supplier because it turns out that maybe that other supplier is cheaper. But yes, they've chosen let's call it a superior brand or a more well-known brand. it attracts the attention. And like you said, gives them the opportunity to put the stickers in the window maybe, or when people come in, they see this product, but it's not necessarily what's being sold, which again, going back to, should displays be free or not? Where's the commitment from the retailer? That needs to be seen for an arrangement to be met.
One of the things, Lisa, that is different about KBB retail than other retail is that you're not really a shop, are you? You're a showroom rather than a shop, and people don't kind of walk around and pick things up and take them to a till. So how much of this conversation about displays is as much about getting the designers excited about products and wanting to put them in projects as much as it is about displaying it to the punter?
I think by getting the designers to design the displays, they've got a vested interest in the setting and therefore will want to include it in their designs for clients.
Because a big part of this, Tina, is you can put a display in, but you need to teach your staff all about it. They need to know that product inside out. They need to want to specify it and to show it to consumers as well. And I'm assuming that's part of the relationship that happens with the supplier. You want guys like Gary coming around and incentivizing you emotionally as well as financially.
Infusing, yeah. I mean, the other issue that I think a lot of us struggle with potentially is that we have such a varied client base, don't we? So we've got clients from the age of maybe late 20s, early 30s, up to 80-year-olds with very different tastes, very different styles, very different budgets. And again, in the showroom, it's trying to find that cross-section of products that are going to appeal to everybody, because I don't just want a showroom that just sends me down one avenue of client base. We've always in the past tried to put a Marmite display in of some description, which is one of those that, if nothing else, it gives you a talking point with the client of either, oh my God, I love that, even though I couldn't have it in my house, or oh my God, who would have that? Because again, we are a showroom, we are selling, but it's the relationship that you build with your customer that is the important part. And to be fair, they buy from you. I don't ever think that my clients are interested in the brands that I supply in any shape or form. And even well-known brands that we are all aware of now, a lot of consumers, because they probably only buy on a 20-year cycle, don't know that trade name.
Gary, let's finish with you, because what's coming out here very strongly, and it comes out every time, you know this, it comes out every time you have discussions with independent retailers, is they really focus on their independence for obvious reasons. They know their market best, they know their clientele better than anybody. Do you think suppliers understand enough how independent retail businesses work at the highest levels? I mean, the ASMs on the road have a much better relationship. I mean, Tina's shaking her head there. Do you think that is something that needs to be improved, or do you think it is about finding a balance?
I think it's currently a work in progress. So when I started on the road 12 years ago, no, it probably wasn't taken into much consideration at all. But when I finished working on the road, doing a job as an ASM, it's something that was valued a lot more. Now, from the perspective of, as I said, building those relationships, that comes from the ASM. But it also has to be fed from the ASM back to the decision makers where you're working, the supplier or manufacturer. Because if the information isn't being fed back, then how do they react? The companies I've worked for, and a lot of the companies I'm aware of, I know a lot of other ASMs in the industry, they all say the same thing. So it's about building that relationship at the ground level and making sure the information that both parties have, so that's the retailer and the supplier manufacturer, is sent backwards and forwards. As an example, in my last role, we would always be given data for best-selling products, best-selling colours within their range. That would be nationally, regionally, and we could share that information with the retailer because, as Tina said and Lisa said, the clientele will always be very different. But having an insight into, if someone's selling 20, 30, 40 million pounds worth of product every year, having an insight as to what is the best selling of that product will help you to make that decision. And vice versa, if the retailer is saying, but we sell this is what we sell, then that needs to go the other way. The ASM has a big role to play in that, and it's down to the relationships that are built. Tina said it. You buy through people. Tina and Lisa's customers buying from them, and then that's Tina and Lisa buying from me, or their ASM. Because generally speaking, they don't know the director of the company that sits at the top of his ivory tower in Germany or wherever it might be. You've got to build the relationships with the people that are in front of you.
In fairness to suppliers, I do think it's very difficult for them because, for a start, independent retail is only one channel out of many channels. So there's a division of concentration there. The independent retail channel, by its nature, is built on incredibly high levels of customer service, right? That's basically what you guys do. And therefore, your expectations of customer service to you are incredibly high as a result. And you want them to understand your business individually, but you are just one of hundreds of businesses, and each one of them will operate in a completely different way. So it is difficult for suppliers to give everybody what they want. It's interesting you say it's like a learning curve, because, I mean, Tina's been doing this for, 100 years, and Lisa's been doing this for almost as long as have I now. And the same questions and the same debates come up again and again and again. But look, thank you so much for this. It's such an interesting area to look at. This pinch point where supply meets retail is always such an interesting area to discuss and to debate. But the clock's beaten us, I'm afraid. We could go on and on. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Gary. And we'll speak again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.